Above the glowing clouds of Eos Prime, the battlecruiser Virelia emerged from slip space, smooth, silent, elegant. Its commander, Captain Elias Rowe, stood tall on the command deck, composed, focused. His eyes scanned the starfield like a man reading ancient scripture. A young officer broke the silence. Coravell. Captain, we've picked up multiple contacts, not ours. Elias. How many? Cora, checking the console. At least 10 ships. Patterns don't match any known registry. He stepped closer to the main display. Alien signals. Unknown engines. One massive core signature at the center. Like a heart, beating in the dark. They had arrived, whoever they were. In orbit below, the colony lights of Eos Prime flickered like fireflies. Civilian transport ships were still mid-launch, vulnerable. The command crew tensed. Then came the call. Arden Voss, voice through comms. Defense grid is incomplete. If they attack, we won't hold long. Elias, quietly. Then we give them something to remember. The alien ships began to shift formation, but not in a pattern of peace. It felt instinctual, animal, like wolves circling prey. Cora, they're advancing. Elias didn't raise his voice. He simply said, bring us in close. Shields at full, comms on open frequency. Let's see if they listen before they strike. Outside the viewport, 10 alien vessels formed an arc. Bioluminescent plating shimmered with colors unseen on Earth, and yet they made no sound, no signal, just presence. Then, a flash. One of the smaller ships surged forward, fast. Cora, incoming. The Virelia's defense grid activated instantly. Bright lines of ion energy crisscrossed space, intercepting the strike just in time. The crew braced for the worst. But then, the alien ships halted, held position. Elias opened a channel. He didn't know if they'd understand. But he spoke anyway. Elias. This is Captain Elias Rowe of the United Confederation. We are explorers. We are protectors. We do not fire first, but we will not fall quietly. You are not our enemy unless you choose to be. The bridge fell silent. For 5 long seconds. Nothing. Then, the central alien vessel pulsed with light. A single symbol appeared on Virelia's main screen. Unfamiliar. Beautiful. Not a threat. A question. Celine Thorne, the ship's xenolinguist, whispered, they're not attacking. They're asking if we're ready. Cora, ready for what? Elias narrowed his eyes. For something much bigger than war. Dr. Celine Thorne stood surrounded by projection fields filled with cascading alien glyphs. The Zarathi symbol repeated itself, shifting colors like it was alive. Coravell entered, still in uniform, visibly skeptical. Cora. Still no translation? Celine, without looking up. Not in any known linguistic system. But it's consistent, intentional, like it's waiting for us to catch up. Cora frowned. Cora. And in the meantime, they surround our colony. Celine met her gaze. Celine. This isn't a siege. It's something else. Interior. Virelia. Observation deck. Captain Elias Rowe stood alone, watching the alien fleet through reinforced glass. The central Zarathi ship, dark, jagged, almost coral-like in design, slowly rotated in space. A soft chime. Arden Voss stepped in. Arden. The Defense Council's calling this a standoff. Elias. It's not. Arden. Then what is it? Elias didn't answer right away. He turned back to the stars. Elias. They're not posturing. They're measuring us. Like we're an equation, one they've seen before. Interior, Eos Prime colony. Underground bunker civilians were being moved to shelters. The mood was tense but not panicked. Broadcasts from the Virelia played on holographic screens. Captain Rowe's calm voice guided the population like a lighthouse in stormy waters. Elias, recorded broadcast. We do not retreat from the unknown. We learn, we adapt, we endure. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Not as soldiers, but as one species. A child in the bunker whispered to her mother, is he afraid? The mother smiled faintly. Even if he is, he never shows it. Interior, Virelia, briefing room. The senior officers gathered. Holograms of the alien ships floated above the table. Celine, I think the signal is a test, not of strength, of intent. We've seen this structure in ancient alien ruins before, on Lassifor and on Earth. Everyone turns. Arden. What? Celine. We think the Zarathi aren't just new, they're old, ancient. and somehow connected to us. Exterior, orbit of Eos Prime. Suddenly one of the Zarathi ships began to glow, not an attack, a transmission. The symbol reappeared, this time pulsing faster, more urgent. Cora, on bridge. Captain, they're requesting direct interface, not through language, through neural sync. The crew froze. Arden. They want to link minds. Celine. Not all of us. Just one. Everyone turned to Elias. He stood silently. Elias. They're testing trust. So, let's give them some. Dr. Selene Thorne stood surrounded by projection fields filled with cascading alien glyphs. The Zarathi symbol repeated itself, shifting colors like it was alive. Cora Vell entered, still in uniform, visibly skeptical. Cora. Still no translation? Celine, without looking up. Not in any known linguistic system, but it's consistent, intentional, like it's waiting for us to catch up. Cora frowned. Cora. And in the meantime, they surround our colony. Celine met her gaze. Celine, this isn't a siege. It's something else. Interior, Virelia, observation deck. Captain Elias Rowe stood alone, watching the alien fleet through reinforced glass. The central Zarathi ship, dark, jagged, almost coral-like in design, slowly rotated in space. A soft chime. Arden Voss stepped in. Arden, the Defense Council's calling this a standoff. Elias, it's not. Arden, then what is it? Elias didn't answer right away. He turned back to the stars. Elias, they're not posturing, they're measuring us. Like we're an equation, one they've seen before. Interior, Eos Prime colony. Underground bunker civilians were being moved to shelters. The mood was tense, but not panicked. Broadcasts from the Virelia played on holographic screens. Captain Rowe's calm voice guided the population like a lighthouse in stormy waters. Elias, recorded broadcast. We do not retreat from the unknown. We learn, we adapt, we endure. Whatever comes next, we face it together, not as soldiers, but as one species. A child in the bunker whispered to her mother, "Is he afraid?" The mother smiled faintly. Even if he is, he never shows it. Interior, Virelia, briefing room. The senior officers gathered. Holograms of the alien ships floated above the table. Celine. I think the signal is a test, not of strength, of intent. We've seen this structure in ancient alien ruins before, on Lhasa 4 and on Earth. Everyone turns. Arden. What? Celine. We think the Zarathi aren't just new, they're old, ancient, and somehow connected to us. Exterior, orbit of Eos Prime. Suddenly one of the Zarathi ships began to glow, not an attack, a transmission. The symbol reappeared, this time pulsing faster, more urgent. Cora, on bridge. Captain, they're requesting direct interface. Not through language, through neural sync. The crew froze. Arden, they want to link minds? Celine, not all of us, just one. Everyone turned to Elias. He stood silently. Elias, they're testing trust, so let's give them some. The Virelia dropped out of warp into a dead system. A dwarf star flickered weakly at its center. Surrounding it were shattered moons, decayed satellites, and a single planet, dark, unlit, unnatural, Celine on sensors. Nemeris Prime, no biosigns, no power, but the atmosphere's intact. Something kept it stable. Elias, gazing at the planet, or something still keeps it stable. A replay of the Zarathi mind transmission glowed on the screen. The map, the same star alignment, a blinking red icon over Nemeris. Celine. These aren't warnings, they're records. The Zarathi didn't just fear something here, they sealed it in. Cora, arms crossed. We just opened the door. The Virelia's landing shuttle descended into a massive artificial canyon. Strange metal structures jutted from the ground, alien but not Zarathi. Their design was sharper, angular, ominous. As the team stepped out, a low hum filled the air. Not sound, but vibration in their bones. Arden, uneasy. I've seen battlefields. I've seen graveyards. But this is something else. They moved forward, weapons ready, as a doorway opened on its own. Interior, ancient structure, Nemeris Prime. Inside, the walls shimmered with dark light. Elias reached out and touched a panel. It lit up. Not with information, but with memory. A vision surged through his mind. Zarathi warriors fleeing. Another species. Tall, faceless, walking through walls. Stars blinking out one by one. He gasped and staggered. Selene. Captain, what did you see? Elias, breathing hard. The Zarathi didn't run from Namaris. They survived it. Back aboard Varelia, alarms blared. Cora, on comms. Unidentified energy spike below the surface. Something's powering up. Selene, it's not a weapon. It's a signal, broadcasting in every known frequency. Arden, to who? Elias, to whatever's left out there that remembers Nemaris. Far beyond known space, something ancient stirred. Eyes opened in a void that hadn't moved in eons. The signal reached it. It turned towards the stars, toward us. The corridors of Varelia were quieter than usual. Since returning from the surface of Nemaris, the crew moved with a heavy tension, not of fear, but of expectation. Everyone had seen the readings. Everyone had felt the weight of the signal they accidentally triggered. Captain Elias Rowe stood in the observation deck, watching the dead planet slowly rotate beneath them. His reflection on the glass was pale and still. In his hand, he held a small hollow disk, the last fragment of data recovered from the structure. Selene entered behind him, a faint echo in the silence. It's decrypted, she said softly. Elias didn't turn. And she hesitated before continuing. It's not just a warning. It's a record. A war older than the Zarathi, older than humanity. A species called the Vaquari. They didn't just destroy worlds. They erased civilizations, wiped them from memory. They fed on knowledge, on energy, on identity. Elias finally turned. And the Zarathi survived them. Yes, barely, but not by fighting. They sealed Nemaris as a prison. The structure down there isn't a ruin, it's a lock. Elias's expression hardened. And we just picked it. Elsewhere on the ship, the signal continued to broadcast, unstoppable. The crew had tried everything to contain it, even shut down comms relays, but the structure itself had its own power. Self-sustaining, self-aware. A meeting was called. Officers gathered around the command table, faces lit by red glow projections. Cora Vell, ever direct, didn't wait for ceremony. So we've awoken something that terrified a species who almost wiped us out, she said. Great, what's next? Invited over for drinks. No, Elias replied calmly. We go find out what the Vaquari are now, if they're alive, if they're still feeding. Arden leaned forward. You want to seek them out. I want to know what we're up against before it comes to us, Elias said, because it will come. The signal was a beacon, and if the Vaquari are as powerful as these records suggest, we won't survive a direct attack, not without allies. There was a pause, then Selene added, we might not need to fight them at all. The Zarathi didn't try diplomacy, they ran. We don't know what the Vaquari want now. Elias shook his head. We'll try everything, but if history repeats itself, we won't have the luxury of words. Within hours, Varelia charted a course, not toward Earth, not toward retreat, but into a forgotten star system marked only in ancient Zarathi archives. Elethis, the last recorded battlefield between the Vaquari and what remained of the allied species that had stood against them. As the stars blurred into streaks outside the viewport, Elias stood tall at the bridge, voice firm but steady. This is no longer about survival. It's about memory, about truth. If we're going to stop what's coming, we need to remember what everyone else forgot. No one responded, but no one objected. They all knew. The real war hadn't even started yet. The system of Elethis was a graveyard. As Varelia dropped out of warp, the crew stared at the ruins of a shattered world. Giant ship carcasses, some human, some Zarathi, some unidentifiable, drifted endlessly across the void. No signals, no movement, just silence, thick as smoke. Selene ran spectral scans. There's residual quantum displacement. Something here bent time, Captain, not just destroyed matter, erased continuity. Cora looked up from her station. Like Nemaris? No, Selene whispered. Worse. Elias remained quiet. He watched the drifting debris, old battles, forgotten alliances, desperate last stands, and knew something vital had been buried here. They sent out probes. Within hours, one returned with something unexpected, a signal embedded in the debris, encoded in old Earth encryption, military grade, from over a century ago. Arden blinked. That's impossible. Earth only reached this sector 40 years ago. Unless someone else got here first, Elias muttered. The signal revealed a single name, buried in layers of corrupted data. EOS protocol. Status. Locked. Silence followed. Arden broke it. EOS. Our colony. The one we protected. Elias stared at the words, dread blooming in his chest. Number not a colony. A vault. Celine gasped. You think EOS Prime was built to hide something? Not hide, Elias said. Contain. He stood, hands clenched. The Vaquari weren't just sealed on Nemeris. The key to keeping them sealed, to keeping them forgotten, was buried on EOS Prime. Everyone froze. Cora's voice was hollow. Then the Zarathi weren't trying to destroy the colony. They were trying to destroy the key. Elias moved to the comms station. Get me a direct line to Earth, priority 1. No relays. Cora hesitated. Sir, if we transmit from here, they'll hear it, he finished. Yes, but Earth needs to know. This is bigger than the war, bigger than any of us. But before the transmission could be completed, Selene shouted, Captain, warp signature, multiple. It's the Zarathi. Dozens of ships blinked into space around them, but they weren't in attack formation. Their weapons were cold, their shields down. And at the center, a single Zarathi vessel approached, unlike any before. Older, marked with the same sigils found on Nemeris. A communication request came through. Everyone stared at Elias. He accepted. The screen flickered, then filled with the image of a Zarathi commander, its face scarred, its expression weary. You are not our enemy, the alien said. Elias didn't blink. Then who is? The Zarathi bowed its head. Memory. A silence fell like a blade. Then it continued. Your world, EOS Prime, holds the last fragment of what once held the Vaquari at bay. If it is breached, they will awaken in full. Elias spoke with steady authority. Then help us protect it. The Zarathi nodded. For now, we are allies. The alliance was fragile, unnatural. On board Varelia, humans and Zarathi moved through the same corridors for the first time in history. Every eye watched, every hand hovered near a weapon. But under Captain Elias Rowe's command, the truce held. Barely. Aboard the command deck, Elias faced the Zarathi commander, who identified itself as Verkul. Not a soldier, but a warden, one of the last caretakers of the ancient war against the Vaquari. They are not just a threat to the galaxy, Verkul said through its translator, its voice like rusted metal. They are a threat to time itself. If they awaken fully, even your victories will be unmade. You will forget you ever fought. Elias nodded. Then we make sure they don't wake. A joint task force was formed. Varelia would escort a Zarathi team to the surface of EOS Prime. Deep underground, beneath the colony's foundations, was an ancient human facility no one had ever entered. Not even the original colonists knew it was there. Now they did. EOS Prime, subterranean vaults. The descent was treacherous. The deeper they went, the less Earth technology functioned. Lights flickered, gravity warped. Their suits began to glitch with strange echoes, not from the environment, but from memory. Selene paused mid-step, her face pale. I just saw my father. He died years ago. Verkul only nodded. This is how they enter, through the mind first. Do not listen to them. Cora cursed under her breath. Why is everything in this war psychic? At the vault's lowest level, they found it. A chamber, sealed with markings from both Earth and Zarathi tech, symbols never meant to be combined. The Vaquari lock. Arden stepped forward with a data tool, beginning the process to analyze it. But before he could finish, the chamber shook violently. The walls began to glow. The Vaquari weren't coming. They were already here. Back on the surface, EOS Prime erupted into chaos. Civilians screamed as the sky turned violet. From the horizon, shapes emerged. Tall, silver, shifting between dimensions. They didn't walk. They simply were. Their presence unraveled memory. People forgot why they ran. Some forgot their names. The Vaquari had no fleet. They were the weapon. Above, Varelia engaged in desperate orbit-to-ground defense. Elias barked orders, face bloodied but calm. Fire at anything that distorts the atmosphere. Don't look at them directly. Filter visuals through AI. Selena's voice cracked through the comms. They're pulling the lock open, Captain. We can't stop them from here. Elias knew what had to be done. He activated the override for his personal drop pod. Arden tried to stop him. You go down there, you won't come back. Elias met his eyes. This isn't about coming back, it's about not losing everything. He dropped through fire and memory. The lock chamber was collapsing. Celine screamed as Elias landed beside her, shielding her from a psychic blast that made her relive her own death 5 times in 1 second. "I've got this," Elias said. He pulled something from his uniform, the holodisc, Namaris, the original recording of the Viquari. He jammed it into the lock. The entire vault shook. The Viquari shrieked, not in sound, but in thought. Time bent, stars flickered, the chamber turned white, then silence. Not the kind filled with dread, the kind that followed victory. Silence lingered after the blast. The locked chamber stood still, bathed in a faint white glow. For a moment, time held its breath. Then Elias opened his eyes. Celine coughed beside him, alive. The holodisc had shattered, its data burned out in the psychic overload, but it had done its job. The Viquari invasion had stopped, not destroyed, suspended. Above, in orbit, Virelia reported clear skies. The violet haze faded from Eos Prime's atmosphere. The Viquari, for now, had been driven back. Not by weapons, but by memory, by reminding the galaxy of what was once forgotten. The crew of the Virelia gathered in the war room days later. Zerati envoys stood among them, silent but attentive. For the first time in centuries, human and alien breathed the same air in peace. Elias stood at the center. "The Viquari aren't gone," he said. "We didn't destroy them. We only reminded them that we remember." Arden spoke next. "So what now? We wait for them to return?" "No," Elias said. "We build a future where they can't erase us again." He turned toward Veracul. "Together." The Zerathi warden gave a single nod. "Then we must unite more than forces. We must unite truths." And so began the First Alliance Congress, held not on Earth, not on a Zerathi world, but on Virelia. A ship that had once stood alone, now stood as the symbol of unity. Eos Prime was no longer a colony. It was declared a galactic archive, protected, sacred, remembered. Years later, Elias would walk through its rebuilt streets. Children of both species played in the plazas. The sky above was peaceful. And every year, at dawn, the people gathered to remember the day the light returned. The day when one ship, one crew, and one captain faced the forgotten and chose to remember. Not with vengeance, but with hope. Elias stood before the gathered crowd, older now, scars still fresh in memory. He looked to the stars and whispered, "We are still here, and as long as we remember, we always will be."